If you cut your hand, you don't hesitate to clean the wound, cover it, and give it time to heal. But when something inside you breaks, when your heart aches, when shame floods your chest, when anxiety tightens its grip around your thoughts, you tell yourself to get over it. You keep walking with invisible wounds that never really close. We live in a world that treats emotional pain like a personal flaw. You're told to stay positive, to move on, as if healing were a switch you could flip. We rush to treat the body, but when it comes to the mind and heart, we look away. Maybe because emotional pain doesn't bleed, it doesn't show, but it can quietly shape everything. Your choices, your relationships, your sense of self. Therapy can be a lifeline, yes, but not everyone has access to it. And even when they do, therapy isn't a substitute for the daily practice of tending to your own emotional wounds. Just as physical health depends on daily care, eating, resting, moving, emotional health depends on small, deliberate acts of inner maintenance. That's what emotional first aid really means. Learning how to care for yourself when your heart is hurting. The truth is, most of us were never taught how. We were taught to suppress, to distract, to appear fine. But every unprocessed emotion we bury becomes part of the weight we carry. The resentment that creeps into your relationships, the anxiety that hums beneath your achievements, the emptiness that follows success. All of it traces back to wounds that were ignored. Carl Jung once said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." To face your emotions is not to be weak, it's to become aware. Healing doesn't begin when the pain stops. It begins the moment you stop running from it. But awareness alone isn't enough. Once you acknowledge that something inside you is hurting, you need a language to care for it. You need to learn how to clean the wound, so it doesn't fester in silence. That's where emotional first aid begins, with curiosity, honesty, and compassion. When you feel hurt, don't rush to fix it. Sit with it. Ask yourself, what is this emotion trying to show me? Anger often hides sadness. Sadness often hides loss. And loss often hides love. Love for what was, or for what could have been. Emotional pain, when listened to, is not the enemy. It's the messenger. But listening takes courage. Because when you finally stop numbing yourself, when you stop scrolling, working, or pretending your pain doesn't matter, you might realize how much you've been holding back. And that realization can be terrifying. But it's also the beginning of healing. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." He wasn't saying to ignore pain. He was teaching that our relationship to it defines our experience. The goal isn't to suppress what hurts. It's to approach it differently, with understanding, not resistance. So maybe emotional first aid begins with a simple shift, from judgment to curiosity, from avoidance to attention. Because every feeling, no matter how painful, carries information. And if you can learn to listen, you'll find that even the hardest emotions are not trying to destroy you. They're trying to guide you home. Modern culture sells healing like a product, fast, efficient, and measurable. You're told that if you read the right book, repeat the right affirmation, or meditate for 10 minutes a day, you'll finally be free of your pain. You scroll through posts that promise 5 steps to emotional healing or how to move on in 30 days. But what those messages rarely tell you is that real healing isn't linear. It doesn't move in straight lines or clean timelines. You don't move neatly from pain to peace. You spiral through them. Some days you feel strong. Other days you collapse into the same grief you thought you'd outgrown. Healing isn't about never falling back. It's about learning to meet yourself when you do. The obsession with quick fixes comes from our discomfort with discomfort. We live in a culture of numbing, of constant distraction and dopamine. We reach for a screen, a drink, a new project, or a new person to escape what we feel. Because sitting in pain feels unproductive, and unproductivity feels like failure. But that mindset is exactly what keeps the wound open. Healing asks for slowness, something our culture finds intolerable. It asks you to stay with the ache long enough to understand it, instead of trying to erase it. It's not a task to complete. It's a relationship you build. With yourself, with your past, with the parts of you that were once ignored or misunderstood. The truth is, pain doesn't vanish when you distract yourself from it. It waits. It waits for silence, for stillness, for the moment when your guard drops. And when it returns, it often feels stronger. Not because it grew, but because you never faced it. There's a quiet kind of honesty that comes from stopping, from not trying to fix what hurts, but instead asking, what is this pain teaching me? Sometimes, it teaches you boundaries, that you've been giving too much. Sometimes, it teaches you compassion, that others are hurting just like you. Sometimes, it teaches you humility, that not everything broken can or should be put back together. The self-help industry often frames healing as a conquest, something you can master if you just try hard enough. But you can't force healing any more than you can force a flower to bloom. You can only create the right conditions, space, time, patience, and allow it to unfold. Nietzsche wrote, "To live is to suffer. To survive is to find some meaning in the suffering." That meaning doesn't come from denial or control. It comes from surrender, from allowing the pain to strip away everything false until what remains is real. Maybe that's what emotional first aid truly means. Not numbing, not bypassing, but creating a sanctuary within yourself where your pain can exist without shame. A space where you can look at your scars not as proof of weakness, but as evidence of endurance. When you stop rushing your healing, you begin to see the quiet progress hidden in small moments. The day you wake up and your chest feels a little lighter. The night you cry and it feels like release instead of collapse. The conversation that doesn't trigger you like it used to. These are the subtle signs that something inside you is mending, even if it's not visible yet. Healing is slow because it's deep. It doesn't just soothe the surface. It rewires the way you relate to yourself and the world. And that can't happen overnight. The next time you feel impatient, remember, there is no timeline for emotional recovery. There is only presence. The goal is not to feel better faster. The goal is to learn how to feel fully. At some point, you realize that no one is coming to save you. Not your partner, not your parents, not your therapist, not even your future self who has it all figured out. And strangely, that realization, as painful as it feels, is where real healing begins. Because when the noise quiets and the external validation fades, you're left with the one person you've been avoiding the most, yourself. And that's when you learn that emotional maturity isn't about being unbothered or endlessly positive. It's about learning how to stay present with your own pain without running from it. Most people think strength looks like independence, being able to survive without needing anyone. But real strength is softer than that. It's not the refusal to need others. It's the ability to hold yourself when others can't. You learn to soothe your own nervous system, to breathe through the panic instead of pushing it away, to comfort the version of you who's still afraid. That's not detachment. That's self-parenting. The gentle art of becoming your own safe place. When you start doing that, the world stops feeling so hostile. You stop expecting others to fix the parts of you they didn't break. You stop performing your pain to get empathy, and you start offering yourself the understanding you've always begged for. This doesn't mean isolation. It doesn't mean you don't need people. It just means you stop needing them to fill the void you haven't learned to sit with. You begin to build relationships from wholeness rather than from hunger. You connect not because you're empty, but because you want to share what's full. Philosophers like Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius spoke about the power of inner autonomy, the idea that peace isn't something the world gives you, but something you learn to cultivate. Stoicism isn't about emotional suppression. It's about emotional sovereignty. It's the ability to say, "This hurts, but it doesn't have to destroy me." That kind of power is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It's felt in the moments you don't spiral after rejection, when you can hold space for your sadness without turning it into self-pity, when you can forgive without forgetting who you are. And slowly, you begin to trust yourself again. You realize that self-trust isn't built through perfection. It's built through consistency. Every time you show up for yourself instead of abandoning yourself, you rebuild a bond that years of self-neglect have eroded. That's what it means to heal. Not to erase your pain, but to become someone who knows what to do with it, to carry it with grace instead of resentment, to transform it into wisdom rather than bitterness. Healing doesn't turn you into someone new. It reveals who you were before the world taught you to hide. It's not a glow-up. It's a homecoming. A slow return to the parts of you that always deserved tenderness, but rarely received it. And that's the quiet revolution of inner work. You stop chasing external peace and start cultivating internal stability. You become the calm in your own storm. And when you do, everything changes. Not because life stops being difficult, but because you finally have the capacity to meet it as it is, without breaking every time it does. Healing isn't becoming invincible. It's learning to remain open. It's understanding that pain and love aren't opposites. They coexist. To love deeply is to risk being hurt deeply. But when you know how to hold yourself, that risk no longer feels fatal. You realize that maybe the goal was never to get over it. Maybe the goal was to integrate it, to weave the lessons of your suffering into the fabric of your strength. Because once you learn to hold yourself, the world loses its power to unmake you.